What's up, guys? My name is Gabe and welcome back to the Trojan Blade. Welcome back to a brand new video. Another day, another update in the Big Ten versus USC and Michigan saga. So as always, Ross Dellinger is on the case here. He tweeted out a bunch of stuff this Monday morning. So gonna go through all of that, but before we do, if you guys are enjoying the videos, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And since these videos are reaching a much more national fan base, let me know who you're a fan of down below in the comment section. Always fun to see people from different schools here. But yeah, having said all of that, let's get into it. All right, so first tweet here from Ross. He says, on Friday, 23 board members representing 12 Big Ten universities held a call with officials from the American Council of Trustees and Alumni regarding the conference's capital investment deal. Many of those joining oppose the capital deal, or at the very least want it paused. Which makes a lot of sense because the deal is completely stupid. But make sure you read that carefully. Because if you watch my previous two videos on this, which I highly recommend you do to get caught up, the lack of transparency was from the Big Ten conference itself and board members at all these universities. This isn't the Big Ten holding a meeting here and giving full transparency to the board of trustee members at all these schools. This is board members from 12 schools holding a call with the American Council of Trustees and Alumni who previously sent a complaint letter to the Big Ten, calling them out for their complete lack of transparency and the way they're just bulldozing their way into this deal without taking their time, without fully assessing the situation. And it's not surprising to hear that many of these board members who joined want this deal paused or just completely done away with. I've gone over the USC angle of this a million times. We're not going to be a tier 2 school in any conference. We're just not. If you're an Oregon fan, how do you feel about your school signing off on this? Signing off to be considered a tier 2 program to a school like Penn State. I'm not an Oregon fan, but they just waltzed into the Big Ten and won the conference in year 1. They just beat Penn State this year. And the Big Ten is going to tell them that they're a tier 2 school? If you're Washington, you're in Seattle, one of the biggest and most wealthy cities in the entire country. How do you feel about this? Indiana fans, what the hell? You guys are one of the elite programs in the sport right now, on a higher level than Alabama. And you're signing off to be considered a tier 2 school. Penn State makes more money than you. In what world does that make sense, and why is your school signing off on that? But moving on to the next tweet, he says board members from 6 Big Ten universities spoke on the call. They were from Michigan, Minnesota, USC, Penn State, and Maryland. They represented their own personal feelings. At the center of the Big Ten's $2.4 billion deal, a 10-year extension of the league's grant of rights to 2046. Yeah, it's impossible to predict where college football is going to be next year, let alone in 5 years or 10 years or in 20 years in 2046. It's impossible. Signing this deal is signing your future away, completely punting on future earning possibilities, because we don't know where the sport's going to be. This deal could age wonderfully or it could age like milk, as we've seen with the ACC. Now, he does say that the schools that the board members spoke from are Michigan, Minnesota, USC, Penn State, and Maryland. We don't know what the context of those specific conversations were with each school. I think we know with Michigan and USC, but if you're Minnesota, if you're Maryland, letting the big boys of the conference separate from you even more, I get why they'd be in their feelings about it. But next, Ross says, as reported last Sunday, the Big Ten signaled to Michigan and USC that it planned to move forward with the capital deal, delivering to the schools a deadline of Friday and repercussions if they voted against it. The league has said a vote is not scheduled. And yeah, this is where the reporting is going to get a little crazy, and you're really going to be able to see what the Big Ten's plan is to try and strong-arm USC and Michigan, acting like the mob boss, demanding that we do what they say or we're going to be in a world of hurt. He goes on to say the repercussions included a grace period. When and if the other 16 Big Ten schools adopt the deal, Michigan and USC would be given an amount of time to opt in or risk a reduction in capital. The Big Ten outlined a staggered concept that ends with schools losing the ability to opt in. So in other words, do what we say in the time frame that we want it or you're out of the club, you're not going to get anything. And it gets even crazier the next tweet. The staggered reduction concept shared with Michigan includes the school having 6 months to opt in to retain its full capital infusion, $190 million up front plus a $50 million bonus in 2037, which keep in mind for USC would be $140 million up front, and I assume less in the bonus too. $50 million less than what Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State would be making. And that's USC and Oregon both getting that $150 million as the tier 2 schools, and then everyone else is getting even less than that. Also, 6 to 15 months to opt in to retain 2/3 of capital, and then you have 15 months to 2 years to retain 1/3 of capital, And if after 2 years Michigan or USC have not opted into the deal, the school forfeits its capital infusion, the entire $240 million, less for USC, and its grant of rights ends in 2036, 10 years shorter than those opting in. In an email sent to USC's administration, the Big Ten shared a similar plan. So, you have 2 years. Opt into the deal, do what we say, take the amount of money we're offering, or you're done. Or you have to pay back every single dime, $240 million in the case of Michigan. If you're a fan of a different team, that's not Ohio State, because Ohio State is the one leading this. Ohio State is a university that's in debt. Ohio State is not concerned with Penn State. Michigan making the same amount of money as them sucks, but they get to keep USC and Oregon a tier below. Oregon, a school which beat them last year, mind you. Ohio State's the big daddy of this conference. And if you're an Indiana fan, how does this sit with you? If you're a Washington fan, if you're a Minnesota fan, hell, if you're a Nebraska fan, what are you feeling right now? Look at what your conference is doing. Michigan and USC are two of the elite brands in this conference. And they're trying to strong arm us into doing what they want. And if we don't, we're out of the conference 10 years early. And every single dime of this capital has to be paid back. When the spokesperson from Michigan a few weeks ago said that this is a quick payday and it's a bailout for schools that have mismanaged their finances, he was talking about Ohio State. That's who that was directed at, and that's who is in full control of this conference, and that's who's pushing for this deal to go through. This doesn't help USC. This doesn't help Michigan. This doesn't help Purdue or Indiana, and this doesn't help UCLA or Rutgers. This deal is constructed to help out Ohio State. It's clear as day. And if you're a fan of a different school that ends up signing off on this, I would be incredibly disappointed in my university if we did this. And if USC caves and signs off being a tier 2 school in this conference, I will come on here and tell you how embarrassed I am about that. How sick I am that we signed off to be a lesser school in a conference like the Big Ten that historically we've dominated. Again, I'm not a lawyer, not an expert in legal matters by any means. So if you are, please let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. But when USC signed the grant of rights to join the Big Ten, signed that new media deal, all that stuff, I find it completely impossible to believe that the Big Ten is allowed to do stuff like this, and USC and Michigan would not be able to get out of the grant of rights like next year or the year after. It would obviously have to play out in court, but how is the Big Ten allowed to take in a ton of money from an outside source, give that source a stake in the conference, 10%, randomly decide that 2 of its biggest brands' votes don't matter, and 16 of 18 would be enough, and then say, if you don't sign it, you're going to be out in 10 years and you don't get a dime of what everyone else is getting? How in the world does that make any sense? So if you have any thoughts on that, please do let me know. And to finish up here, the last tweet, Ross says, University of Michigan Regent Sarah Hubbard on the call said the board is asking of the Big Ten a fundamental question, quote, is it appropriate for an outside investor to be doing this with the Big Ten, end quote. USC's Jeff Smulyan, hopefully I said that right, says his school, quote, needs more answers before making a decision on the deal. No, Jeff, we don't need more answers. We have our answers. They want us to be a tier 2 school. They want us to make less than Penn freaking State. Again, nothing against you Penn State fans at all. And one of the things I hate about this is that it's kind of pitting people against each other. I know we're rivals and all of that, but at the end of the day, we do share a conference. We are all against the SEC. We are a cohesive unit in that sense, and I hate when it puts us against each other like this. But USC being a tier 2 school below Penn State does not make any sense. It doesn't make any sense for Oregon or Indiana. This deal is a joke. The Big Ten is ran more like the mob than it is a football conference. And I know I have no say. I'm just a guy with a YouTube channel. But I have zero interest in continuing this partnership, being in this conference. And I 100% want USC to break away and be independent or form a new conference. Do something with Michigan and Miami and Notre Dame. I don't care. But to be a party to this is, in my view, to be a party to the destruction of college football. And when you start mixing private capital with college football, it's a slippery, slippery slope. And I'm proud of USC for not caving. I hope we continue to do so. And Michigan, I hope you guys continue to do so as well. We're in this together as far as I'm concerned, against Ohio State, against the Big Ten. But guys, that is all I have for you on this. Even if you're not a USC fan, I do ask that you would subscribe to the channel, because when it comes to this Big Ten stuff, I am going to have a video as soon as something drops. But yeah, really appreciate you guys being here. You're all awesome. And as always, take care and fight on.